Hi everybody and welcome to David's Garage. Today I'm going to be doing my 1 month review on my Thursday Heritage Captains in the rustic brown leather. Alright, so here they are. This is them after I've been beating them up for about, I would say about a month and a half in total. I've been wearing them for about 3 to 4 days a week for about the last 6 weeks. And I've been mainly wearing them for work. So I don't work construction, I don't work in firefighting. I work out in the field as an inspector, and so I walk on a lot of rocks, uneven terrain. I walk on a lot of concrete as well inside warehouses. And yeah, just look at them. They've held up, I think, really nicely. They have been really solid. All right, so first things first, let's talk about this leather. So this leather is what Thursday boots they call rustic brown. They don't give any information on it other than it's a pull-up leather. I'm assuming this is a chrome tan leather from Lafargue Tannery. It actually feels very similar to the amber harness leather from Red Wing. You can see it has a little bit of pull-up. But yeah, so yeah, this is, again, I haven't done anything to the boots. I have just been wearing them for work and beating them up so that way I can show you guys this is how they look, this is how they're holding up. In terms of overall durability, this is a good leather. I think that I haven't taken it easy on these boots, and the leather is holding up very nicely. You can see the creasing is honestly not extensive. The patina on these boots, it's not got a lot of variation because, like I said, I think this leather is probably an oil tan, chrome tan combination leather. So you're not going to have tons of patina potential. But for me, I mean, rustic brown, it's a very classic looking color. It is something that's very versatile. It reminds me sort of, like I said, the amber leather from Red Wing, but also kind of reminds me a little bit of the Predator whiskey leather that I got from my Knicks boots, which is a leather from Horween. That leather feels very stiff and, you know, very waxy. So this leather, it does feel very waxy. And I would say the break-in on this leather wasn't bad at all. I would say probably after a week, the uppers here, like where my ankle is, it broke in nicely. It still has a lot of body to it. I think it's a really nice temper. When I'm feeling it right now, it definitely feels like it's like on the medium side, like it's not too high, not too low on the temper scale, but you can see it's holding its shape. Break-in wasn't bad at all. But for people who aren't used to heritage boots, maybe on a little bit on the tougher side. So for this leather, I would just probably say all you need to do is really brush it and then maybe condition it maybe once a year, if that, just when it feels dry. Like, I probably won't need to condition these boots for a while because it still looks really nice. It's not looking dry really at all. So let's talk about the stitching. So the stitching, as you can see, is rock solid. I haven't had any issues with, you know, flyaways or loose stitching. Actually, one of the things that I really like to look at first after wearing a boot and breaking it in is the toe, because I put a lot of pressure on my toes. This is definitely the part of the boot that gets a lot of wear for me. So for my heritage boots, I want to look at the welt. I want to see, how does the welt hold up in this area? Is it smashed? Is it, you know, delaminating? Because let's say, hypothetically speaking, if I were to get these resold in the future, you know, if this is beat up, it's going to determine whether the cobbler could reuse the welt. But looking at these, I would say the welt is actually looking not too bad. It's definitely, I think, holding up nicely. Like I said, I haven't taken it easy on these boots. And the front of the welt doesn't look really damaged, really smashed in. You can see I got a lot of wear marks on the toe. Here's the other boot. yeah, so I would say it's definitely holding up nicely. Again, this is just after about a month and a half of wear. Okay, so now let's talk about this sole. So this sole, it's not my favorite sole. I would say it's definitely holding up very nicely. Let's take a look at the heel. Most of the wear is here on the heel. So you can see there's lots of wear on the edges here. When I look at the front of the toes, it's actually not too bad, but definitely that's the back of the boot, and then the very front, that's where the most wear is. Let's take a look at the other boot. See, same thing. So you can see most of the wear is here on these edges on the back, and then the front as well has a, not a lot of wear actually. So I would say this sole is holding up very nicely. It's definitely not on the harder side in terms of how hard the rubber is. So it's got a good amount of traction on flatter surfaces. You can see it's low profile and has not huge lugs, but like this pattern designed to give it a good amount of grip on flatter surfaces, I would say. But overall, I would say the sole is fine. I don't love it because it didn't give me the best traction and overall uneven surfaces, uneven terrain, but for office use and for, I would say, flatter surfaces, harder surfaces, concrete, I think this is a fine sole to have. It's a good sole. It's holding up nicely. It's like I said, this rubber is definitely on the softer side. So my guess is that it's definitely going to wear probably faster than your average Vibram sole. But overall, I would say it's a good sole. All right, so now let's talk about the comfort, okay? So when I started wearing these boots, I had a lot of pain in my right foot. Honestly, I'd put the boot on, and after 30 minutes, my instep would be killing me. It was aching. At first, I thought I was lacing them up too tight, so I loosened them up, but still, after 30 minutes, my foot was aching. Then I was thinking, well, maybe they're too small for me. Maybe my instep is too large for them. So I started wearing thinner socks to take up less volume. And with loose lacing and with thinner socks, still, after I put on this boot, my right foot, my instep would be killing me, be aching. And so I looked inside and I was like, okay, does the lining look funky? Because I did have some Truman boots where they messed up the lining right there at the bottom of the tongue, and it put a lot of pressure on my instep. But when I was looking inside the boot, I didn't notice any defects. Everything looked fine. When I compared the left boot to the right boot, they were exactly the same. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe my right foot's a little bit bigger, but still, how do I solve this problem? Because I tried loosening the laces, I tried wearing thinner socks, but it was still, after 30 minutes, it was killing my foot. So what I had to do was I took a lot of boot oil. I took the natural boot oil from Red Wing. I took a lot of it and I oiled the lining leather right here under the tongue. So right there at the bottom of the tongue, this lining leather where the stitching is, I took my hand, I filled it up with oil, and I oiled that part right here on the inside of the boot. I was very generous and I oiled it up good. And then what I did was I took one of those shoe trees with a spring and I put them in the boot so that way it would push this instep out. So basically it would push the instep up like in this direction. So after I oiled it, I put that shoe tree in there and I left it in there for about 2 to 3 days. So I think I left it in there for 2 days. So I left it there for 2 days and then I removed it and then I tried wearing them again and the problem was solved. So I guess my right foot was a little bit too big, or maybe this boot was just a little bit smaller. I don't know. Again, I bought these used on eBay, but they were still in really good condition. So I don't know if it was just something with my foot or something with these boots. All I can tell you is that oiling that instep and then leaving the shoe tree in there to stretch out the instep solved the problem. And I will also tell you that I haven't had this problem on any of my other boots, except for, like I said, those Truman boots, the Coyote Roughout boots. But I don't think it's the same issue because those Coyote Roughout boots clearly had a defect. When they were sewing the stitching on the inside, they clumped up the leather. So whoever did the stitching on those Coyote Roughout boots, they definitely messed up the stitching on the inside. And so instead of it being nice and flat and smooth, it was just like a really thick, clump of leather that they stitched together. So I don't want to equate that problem is the same as this problem, but I can just tell you that this problem, I've never had it happen before on my boots. I've never had to stretch the right boot to make it bigger for my right foot, but that's my experience. Take it for what you will, is what it is. I will tell you though, that now after doing that thing with the oil and the shoe tree and stretching this boot, now when I'm wearing these boots, every so often I will feel a little bit of pressure on my instep for my right foot. So it's not bad at all. It's very, very light, no pain at all, but I will feel it. And I'm like, okay, I can still feel a little bit of pressure sometimes. Okay, so this is just my opinion, but my opinion is that for the first month of wearing these, it does feel like my foot is sort of like in a high heel. So it's kind of like pushing my foot forward because it's sort of falling downhill, okay? Because you can see these heels, they are on the taller side. They're a little bit more on the slanted side. I will say that's what I thought I was feeling, which is probably why it puts so much pressure on my instep. I think that there's multiple factors and I think there's multiple variables that are interacting with each other. I can't definitively say what is the problem, what is the cause. But I think that because of the slanted heel, I did feel like my feet were falling forward, downhill in the shoes. That's probably why it puts so much pressure on my instep, okay? Now, do I love the feel of these boots? To tell you the truth, I don't love the feel of these boots. For the first month, like I said, it did feel like my feet were falling forward in the boots. But now, I will tell you, after wearing them a month and a half, I do start to feel better arch support because it has taken me such a long time to really beat down all this leather in this heel that now I think it's starting to create an arch that's more orthopedic, more of my foot shape in this footbed. So that's why I would say now I am starting to feel some better arch support. And I think now that I'm feeling better arch support, it's gripping my foot better, therefore reducing the force of my foot going downhill, being pushed forward. Because my arch is being gripped better, my heel is sunk in a little bit deeper than my arch, so it definitely feels like it's supporting my foot better. Again, this is just my experience. Take it for what you will. I'm not saying that these boots are the best boot, you should go buy them, or the worst boot, you should stay away from them. I'm not saying that. Just telling you about my experience. How do they feel now after wearing them for a month and a half? Well, they're fine. For the first month, it feel like they were falling forward because this is slanted and there wasn't much arch support. It's really, I really don't think the arch support, for the first month, it wasn't that great because it just felt like my foot was falling downhill and I was putting the pressure on my instep. For me, I think that this is not the best designed heel and arch. I think it's not the best built heel and arch with the way they do their leather shank, the way they slope this. I don't think it's the best design. Is it the worst design? No. Although I think I would be disingenuous if I was saying this is the worst and it was super uncomfortable, because it wasn't. After I fixed that problem with the instep, and like I said, after about a month of wearing these boots, and I started feeling a little bit of arch support, I would say the comfort on these boots is fine. It's not phenomenal, it's fine. Now remember, this is a heritage boot, has lots of leather underfoot, so you're not going to be feeling like you're walking on pillows. You're not going to be feeling like you're wearing your gym shoes with all that cushion and foam. Now, let me give you my point of view. I think the reason why I don't think it's the best designed is because one thing that, actually Yushu pointed this out on his video about these boots, but this heel is extremely long, okay? Heels are not usually so long. Now, is it the longest? No, but I would say it is a pretty long looking heel. And because you have this Western style heel, this dogger style, and it's a little bit taller here versus here. I believe this is like an inch, this is a ½ inch. It's really sloped. But here is my theory. This is my theory. You see how there's a very small space where the boot is actually not touching the ground. Look at this, you have this section that is touching the ground, and then you have this heel section. There's only this small portion of the sole right here that is not touching the ground, so your foot's not being supported. But that's why boot makers put in shanks. They put shanks in boots to give your boot some support right here where it's not touching the ground. This is what I think. I think the reason why they made this heel so long is because they're not using a lot of leather for the shank to really build it up. If you look at White's boots, if you look at Nick's boots, any of the P&W boot makers that have a logger style heel with that high arch support, they have a higher, taller heel because they build up that arch support with lots of leather, and it gives you that arch support. Really locks your foot in because your arch is locked in, so your foot doesn't feel like it's falling forward, okay? But with these boots, they made this heel super long because Thursday did not build up this arch with lots of leather. And so in order to support the boot and to really not have it collapse inward, because you don't want it to be too long here and then the boot starts to collapse downward and flatten out. You don't want that to happen. So I think that Thursday made this heel super long to try and extend the support underneath this back part of your foot. Because I think the small leather shank that Thursday is using, it's not substantial enough. It's not thick enough to support your arch on its own. I think the leather shank, the small thin leather shank that Thursday puts in these boots, it needs this support right here from this heel to support it upward. Because I think that if this heel was too short, let's say if the heel went up to here, then there'd probably be a better chance that that small leather shank would collapse downward and your arch would flatten out in the boot. Again, this is just my theory. This is why I think they designed this heel this way, why they designed this slope this way. Just from looking at cobblers who've taken their heritage boots from Thursday apart to show the leather shank, it just feels really inadequate. And this whole long heel sloped design right here, this sloping heel slope design, I think it really makes sense. And again, I don't think it's the worst design. I don't think it's the best designed. If you look at the leather shanks that White's uses or Nick's uses, any of the P&W boot makers, those leather shanks, they are very thick and beefy. And they're actually built up, I think, with at least two layers of leather. I'm not positive, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm almost positive that the leather shanks that White's boots uses are really thick and beefy, and usually I think multiple layers. That's why if you look at the bottom of a P&W boot, you'll see a bulge right here under the arch, because there's so many layers of leather that they're using to build up that arch support, because they don't want the arch to collapse into itself and flatten out. You know, Thursday boots and Rose Anvil, again, this is just my assumption. They were probably like, hey, let's go all in, let's go full leather. And then we can tell customers, well, we have all leather internal components for our footbed. And yeah, I guess, you know, if you want to brag to your customers that you have all leather components, good for you. But if it's not designed right, hopefully all I'm saying is that maybe they can correct their designs in the future, maybe take this as a learning experience. In my opinion, I think I would prefer a flatter slope with a metal shank, so that way this heel can be designed better. The slope won't have to be so drastic here in the rear of the boot, and my feet won't feel like they're sliding too far downward, or I won't feel too much pressure of my feet sliding downhill. And I don't know if that's a good thing or if it's a bad thing. You know, let me know what you guys think. Let's talk about the overall build quality. Well, I think I talked about it a little bit, but I would say the overall build quality for these boots is really good. It's impressive. I think that for $235, at least when I'm making this video, these are priced at $235. I think that, you know what? That is quite an interesting deal. You know, I'd say the sole is good, the leather components are holding up nicely, the stitching is holding up nicely, the welt is holding up nicely. I would put this in the same category as the Iron Ranger, which is exactly what I think Thursday was going for when designing this boot with Rose Anvil. Would I buy this boot again? Remember, I bought this boot used on eBay, I think for like $160 or something like that, shipped. So that's the reason why I got it. Like I said, I don't love the design of Thursday boots. You know, they're just not my cup of tea. But I got these boots really to just make videos on them, to show you guys, hey, this is what I think of them, and to do comparison videos. So I bought them to make videos on them. But would I buy them if I had a $235, would I buy these boots? I would probably lean towards not getting it, just because I would want to really spend my money on a boot that I really loved the last. And, you know, if the leather's okay, I would want to, you know, be happy with the sole and not want to make any changes to it. So that's my opinion. Would I buy these if I had $235? Probably not. But truthfully, it's a coin flip. It's 50-50. I think, you know, like I said, Thursday boots, they've never really appealed to me. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna say these boots were terrible. You know, I'm telling you about my experience, and I'll tell you that overall, they're good boots. So, if you guys have these boots, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. That's everything I have for you guys today. I really do appreciate you watching, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next video.